Hello everybody! I hope you had a wonderful day with Mr. Zorn. So here's the first lecture on social psychology. This, by the way, is my favorite unit. So what is social psychology? Well, we're studying the way people relate to others. So we kind of can break this down into three big areas. We'll look at attitudes, and an attitude is really just a set of beliefs and feelings. And then next, we'll look at aggression and attraction. Why do people feel attracted to others, and why do people act aggressively? And then finally, we'll look at group behavior. How is it that working as a group makes a difference in how you behave? By the way, Zimbardo's prison experiment that you watched today does have a place in this. We'll get to it. So let's start with attitudes. Seems pretty basic, but this is a really big deal in psychology. And in fact, the entire field of advertising is based on people's attitudes. So I have a whole bunch of pictures here. I'll get to them. Let me start with the mere exposure effect. So over here, McDonald's. I think you guys know how much I hate McDonald's. I despise it. It's disgusting. There's nothing real about that food. Well, why is it that my kids love that place? Why do they, when we drive by those golden arches, why do they beg to go there? And they just have happy feelings about it. Well, the mere exposure effect could explain part of this. It states that the more you are exposed to something, the more you will come to like it. Well, they have pretty good advertising, and we don't watch a ton of TV in our house, but we watch enough for them to see plenty of McDonald's commercials. There's McDonald's everywhere. Ronald McDonald comes to school, daycares everywhere to make people feel happy. It works pretty well. Advertisers also learn that the person communicating the message can influence your attitude. So with kids, you want to have a nice, fun-loving clown-like person or an animal. That always works really well. There's a whole lot of research on this, but to kind of summarize, attractive, really good-looking people are more persuasive communicators. People look at great-looking people and famous people, and either one, want to be like them, or two, want to be with them. So there's some research to say that the more educated people are, the less persuaded by these ads they are, but it still makes a difference. It has been shown that with a less educated audience, a one-sided message works best, but with a more educated audience, a communication that acknowledges and refutes opposing arguments would be most effective. So we have two ways where an attitude could really change a path. There's a central route and a peripheral route. So the central route is where interested people focus on the arguments and respond with favorable thoughts. This is a route where people really are engaged using scientific evidence, and there's arguments, and generally people respond with favorable thoughts. Now, the peripheral route is kind of, if you imagine a peripheral, it makes you think it's a roundabout or taking another path. But in fact, this attitude change path is one in which the people are influenced by incidental cues, like the hotness of the speaker, and this is often much quicker. So a person's going to feel a certain way about a product or an idea instantaneously, just based on how good looking someone is, or how much it appeals to their emotions. Now, if you're going into some kind of career where you're going to try to be persuading people, you certainly want the central route because that's more durable. It's more thoughtful, it's less superficial, so it's going to last longer and it will most likely influence behavior. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get it to stick. If a person isn't being thoughtful about that particular issue, if a person doesn't want to engage in critical thinking, then it's very difficult. So think back to when you wrote the stranger paper for me a long time ago. You analyzed a person's attitude in school, in class, and maybe out of class, and you felt like you made a good attempt at predicting their personality and perhaps predicting their behavior. We might think that attitudes should tell us about someone's behavior, but often that's not the case. Or rather, as you discovered when you were writing your stranger paper, it's just not quite as clear. So let me tell you about LaPierre's study. Back in the 1930s, LaPierre was examining prejudice against Asians in the United States, so this is a long time ago. He traveled with an Asian couple around the country, and he watched how they were treated. Only on one occasion was the couple treated badly due to their race. Now, after the trip, LaPierre contacted all of the establishments they had visited, and he asked about their attitudes towards Asian patrons. Over 90% of the respondents said they would not serve Asians. So this finding illustrates that attitudes don't perfectly predict behaviors. A strict behaviorist would say that if you can change a person's behavior, you can change their attitude. But we have this theory, the cognitive dissonance theory, that tells us it's much more complicated than that. This theory is based on the idea that people are motivated to have consistent attitudes and behaviors, and when their attitudes and behaviors don't match, they experience this uncomfortable mental tension. This is dissonance. They don't like that. And because of this dissonance, it often causes them to change either their attitude or their behavior so they match. So cheating is a really interesting example looking at psychology and high school students. Many of you have this belief that cheating on tests is bad. You're not supposed to cheat, but what if you cheat on a test? Oh my gosh, how bad? Perhaps the way that you would create some kind of rationale to relieve that tension that you feel that because of that dissonance, you're going to have some kind of justification. Well, the teacher is really bad, so it's okay to cheat in that class. It was interesting. I tried this experiment on my regular psych kids about a month ago, and it was just a real basic thing. I showed them a movie, and they had to fill out this stupid worksheet. And it said on the top of the worksheet, remember, asking somebody for your answers is considered cheating. Raise your hand at the end of the video if you have questions. And so we did this activity, and then I collected their papers. And most of the students, quote unquote, cheated. They fessed up. But it was really interesting to hear some of their answers. Some students said, well, the video was so boring. It was stupid anyway. So again, there's that attempt at releasing that tension. You have this belief cheating is bad, but you produce a behavior that's inconsistent, so then you have to change your attitude. You have to create something to remove that cognitive dissonance. So here's a perfect example in the workplace. Teachers are actually a perfect example of this theory. So you have some of the most educated individuals in the country. Most people have well beyond a bachelor's degree, yet they're paid the equivalent of what some people can make just with a high school diploma. So if a teacher really thought about that for a long time, it can feel very disturbing. A teacher could experience a great amount of tension. So then you may hear from teachers say, well, but I love it. It's not about the money. I love the work. And personally, that's how I feel. I have trouble with this cognitive dissonance theory because I truly do believe my attitude is that I love my work. But there's been a lot of research about this, and the psychologists who are researching this say that this is what we do, this is what teachers do to relieve the tension of being underpaid. So a compliance strategy is something that's used to change others' behaviors. And there's basically 3 popular strategies you could know. These are actually very, very useful. I challenge you to give it a try. First, we have the foot in the door phenomenon. So if you get people to agree to a small request, they will become more likely to agree to follow-up requests that are much larger.